Well, there's one star and possible future Hall of Famer who's not going to go to the LA Dodgers, and that's by his choice.
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans. Welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully. Follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or whatever it's called these days, and on Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram, but the best way to get hold of us is right here on the YouTube page. And if you are a regular listener, you listen every day, leave that hashtag EverydaySully. If you make a comment, helps us find what you're talking about. And hey, also, if you want to join the Everydayers Club, I usually talk about this a little bit later in the show, but why not go to lockedonmlb.supercast.com? You get access to the Discord, and I chat a lot. Today I wanted a whole run where I was posting pictures of myself at different stadiums during the 1990s and everything like that. And I'm going to be responding today to a really, really good baseball fan named Happy67, who is on the Discord, who wrote me a couple of things, challenged me on a couple of things, and showed that this person is a really, really terrific baseball fan. The second segment, we're going to be talking about the trivia question and answering his happy 67. He's not lucky, he's happy. But right now, I want to just bring up the nice piece of news that happened. People are saying, oh, all the big market teams signed this player, that player, and everything like that. Well, today it was announced that Cleveland Guardian star, former Cleveland Indian star, José Ramírez, once again signed a contract extension. The Ramirez's contract extension came up in the Discord, and at first I was thinking they were talking about the one he signed, I believe it was in 2021 or 2022, that added a bunch of years, and the Guardians looked like they were going to trade him, just like they asked to trade everybody who asks more than a person who operates the milkshake machine at Burger King. They trade him away. Well, they thankfully kept José Ramírez, who has been absolutely open about the fact that he likes playing in Cleveland. He doesn't want to go to the big market thing. He likes having a basically a home in America in Cleveland. But apparently he signed another one today. Now he has some deferred money in it, but he's going to be signed through the year 2032. And Cleveland, please don't trade him, because he probably could make more money than that than he made if he went to the open market. But he has played really 12 full seasons with Cleveland. He came up in 2013 when Terry Francona took over the squad, and they made the wild card game against, I believe it was against Tampa that year. But he has been a staple on Cleveland teams playing. He is the last remaining player of the 2016 American League champions who got within one swing of winning the World Series in 2016. And he batted 500 with a 1.183 OPS in the division series sweep of Boston that year, and got a key home run in what looked like a clinching game in Wrigley Field in Game 5 of the World Series that year. He was part of the magical Cleveland team that went on that huge 20-something game winning streak where he led the league in doubles. He has been a doubles machine, twice leading the league in doubles in that category, led the league in runs scored in the COVID year, and has been an all-star 7 times, 6 times being a silver slugger for Cleveland, and being just a steady run producer, a steady power hitter, and a terrific all-around bat who's been there for a dozen years. And could have made a fortune in the open market, or could have made, given Cleveland a bunch of young prospects in a trade package. And he's not doing that. He is going to be one of those players who stays with one team their whole career. Now, the the details of the contract. I don't have all the details in front of me, but it is a extension. As I said, it keeps him through 2032. Well, he'll be 39 years old. So if that's not going to be his entire career, then it's certainly his freaking prime. And he is going to be, he had a terrific year, and so he's going to be there as Cleveland. As always, they get young. As always, they're putting together a team with young players, and this is a team that had that remarkable September where they leapfrogged Detroit to win the division. Now, it didn't. It wasn't the victory over Detroit that I'm sure they'd wanted, because they lost the wild card series to Detroit 2-1. But this is a player who they can count on. And not only could they count on him, he plays every day. I mean, let's go. I mean, he played 150, he played over 150 games in 2016, 2017, 2018, 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, 2025, and he played 58 games in the COVID year. The only season he missed any significant amount of time was 2019, where he played 129 games that year. Consistent, year in and year out. And because he has played all these years with Cleveland, he is right up there with in the career leaders for so many categories for the Cleveland Indians / Guardians. And so he has shown loyalty to the fans of Cleveland and to the organization. And this is where real loyalty comes from. It doesn't come from when you go back to, if you're a Cleveland fan, going back to the days of Bob Feller and Lou Boudreau and all that. That wasn't loyalty when they stayed with those teams all those years, because they didn't have a choice. There was no free agency. At the end of the year, if the team wanted to keep you, they would either negotiate a new contract with you or just renew your previous one. That was called the reserve clause. So when you saw players play an entire career with one team, that was because the team wanted that, not because the players did. In this instance, it's really because the player wanted to. And look, no one's going to cry for José Ramírez, who's going to be making, in the end, this is going to be in the hundreds of millions of dollars. He's doing fine money-wise, thank you very much. But, if he went off and wanted to be with the Mets, if he wanted to be, the Yankees could certainly use a everyday third baseman. If he wanted to, even technically the Dodgers could too. Some of the big spending teams could use a player like José Ramírez, and he's staying with Cleveland. He's showing loyalty to Cleveland, which means, and we'll talk about this later, Cleveland's got to show some loyalty back. Cleveland show that they understand the significance of this. And we had one of my the listeners on here who posted something. We're doing a live stream right now. Posted a comment that Cleveland has to do something to show the loyalty to José Ramírez, because he's showing it right there. I'm having a little bit of a computer issue right now, and I hope it doesn't mean I'm about to crash. And if I do, please bear with me. There we go. Sorry about that. Let's go. Yeah, there was Lawrence Gogg. Sorry about that, everyone. When you're doing it live, sometimes you get a little glitch like that. Let's see what Lawrence Goggins 2 times says. We really appreciate him. The front office has to do right by him and spend more to build around him. Now, I have talked about this. I've talked about this many times, about how Cleveland is in the bottom third, sometimes the bottom 5 of payroll, which is completely inexcusable for a team that is currently in the zone to be a pennant winner. But a really, really good fan, as I mentioned before, Happy 67, challenged me on what I was saying and how I'm not throwing blame at the Dodgers, throwing shade at the Dodgers for the current state of baseball, but I'd rather throw shade at a team like Cleveland. He felt I was being a little hypocritical. I disagree, but I'm willing to answer his question, clear my throat, and talk about it, which we will after this. All right, let's hear from our good friends over at TurboTax. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things over and move on with your day. With TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert start to finish without stress or the guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to fill out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online. They handle everything from W-2s to self-employment forms and work to get you every single deduction. You can upload your documents, go about your day, and get updates right in the TurboTax app. It's a huge time saver and gives real peace of mind knowing a real expert is handling it. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in. If a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year, just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back with your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today. Hey, first of all, I just got to say thanks so much for making Locked On MLB your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. If you haven't already, go check out the new Everydayer Club and get ad-free audio on the Locked On MLB show. It's similar to Apple Podcast or Spotify, and you can check us out in the Everydayer Club Discord, where I get to interact with a bunch of you. Check us out at lockedonmlb.supercast.com. Okay, before we go to the sorry, I have a little itch on my nose. Before we go to the Happy 67 who's on the Discord, let's go over the trivia question, which I had the other day. What team did the Milwaukee Brewers acquire Raleigh Fingers from before the 1981 season? And Francisco Castaneda 9665 said the Padres. Nope. Justin Miner 5373 said the Padres. Nope. And then it was, if you look at his baseball card, he went A's, Padres, Brewers. But nope. Ken Mitchell, and a couple of you did get this right. H51, I like the trick question. I almost instinctively said Padres, but the Padres traded him to the Cardinals, who flipped him to the Brewers. That's right. There was a huge trade between San Diego and the Cardinals involving Cisco Lascano and a bunch of other people, of which the Cardinals acquired Raleigh Fingers. They also acquired Bruce Sutter. And so with two Hall of Fame closers, they then flipped Raleigh Fingers and Ted Simmons for a big package to the Milwaukee Brewers. So technically, the Brewers acquired Raleigh Fingers from the St. Louis Cardinals. It's a weird little wrinkle. Actually, two different players, two different teams had Raleigh Fingers, who he never played for. He was briefly acquired by the Boston Red Sox, but the deal was voided by the commissioner because it was a straight cash for player deal, which for some reason they voided. I never understood the logic behind that. All right, let's get to this. Let's get to this comment. This is from, and I'm going to try to see if I can keep this on here longer. Forgive me, I'm having a little bit of a computer glitch, which is not good if you are doing a live show. Happy 67 Discord. Hey, Sully, you can't argue payroll doesn't matter for competitiveness and then criticize Cleveland for not spending. Those two positions don't align with each other or the data. I agree with that 100%. I can't argue that payroll doesn't matter for competitiveness and then criticize Cleveland for not spending. And it's a good thing I've never argued that payroll doesn't matter for competitiveness. I've never said that. I've never implied that. I've said over and over again that, yes, the Dodgers spending lots of money is a great advantage to them. Sure. But the issue I have is not with the Dodgers spending. It's with other teams not, especially Cleveland. Of course, payroll has to do with competitiveness. And it's why I'm urging for teams like Cleveland, who are in a window of opportunity to win the division, to be regularly winning the division, especially if the Tigers, who should be a team on the rise, are playing games with Tarek Skubal, and that game not being signed him to a long-term contract. That could mean the downfall of the Tigers before they even get started. The Royals are in a little bit of a neutral zone right now. They made the playoffs a few years ago. They took a little bit of a step back last year. They're probably good. We're not sure. And then the White Sox are making some improvements, but they're nowhere near contention right now. And the Minnesota Twins don't seem to know what the hell they're doing. So the one surefire team that is going to be a contender in the Central are the Cleveland Guardians. And they are in the lower, the bottom 6 in payroll, maybe in the bottom 5, if I remember correctly. And they need to spend some more money because payroll does matter to competitiveness. My issue isn't that payroll doesn't matter. My issue is the people who aren't spending, especially if you see this right here? See, if they take even this much from, I'm holding a coin for those of you who are just listening to me. If they take even a coin from the luxury tax, that is paid off in revenue sharing, if they take any money from that, they have to account how they're spending that money to improve their 40-man roster. And if Cleveland raises their spending to, as I said, to mediocrity, they would be a powerhouse in the American League Central. And keep in mind, there is no super team in the American League. Toronto is trying to be a big super team because they recognize they have to win a World Series to wipe out the bad taste in their mouth from losing Game 7 of the World Series in extra innings. And that the time is now. Well, guess what? The time is now also for Cleveland. And the only other team to lose Game 7 of the World Series in extra innings since the advent of the wild card was Cleveland. They were called the Indians back then. And by the way, those who want to change the name back to Indians, I will remind you that name was not exactly a good luck charm. I've pointed this out before. I'll point it out again. They couldn't even win the World Series in the Major League movies. But I digress. The window of opportunity now to win the AL Central in perpetuity is there, and José Ramírez is sticking around to be part of it. If this team wins just one World Series, it will be the generational moment for Cleveland baseball fans that they've been waiting for, who since Jim Brown retired to make movies, Cleveland fans have seen a grand total of one championship. And that was the one that LeBron delivered when they were down 3-1 to Golden State in that same year where the Indians got to within one swing of winning the World Series. Yes, money means something to competitive, which I'm urging for teams to spend. Is a winnable American League. You don't need to spend like the Dodgers. Spend like the Diamondbacks, and you'd have a borderline dynasty in this division. And because there's no super team, getting into the postseason in the American League means you got a shot of going all the way. Ask Texas. It happens. Yes, Houston went on a run where they were the go-to team, whether they did it through trash cans or they did it straightforward. But it's available right now. One title would mean a lifetime of relief for a team that is getting closer and closer. It's been 77 years, 78 years since there's been a Cleveland Baseball World Series title. We've had a Milwaukee World Series title more recently. I think it's been 78 years right now, I believe, which means we're getting eerily close to those magic numbers like the Red Sox and the White Sox and the Cubs had. You have a chance to wipe that out. And you have a chance to wipe that out by spending a little bit, Dolan family, sitting on a Scrooge McDuck pile of money. So you're a good fan, Happy 6-7. You are. I reject your premise because yes, I'm agreeing with you. Payroll does matter to competitive. That's why I've been saying that's why I've been preaching it. And why I think Cleveland doesn't even need to go crazy. Just fill your holes, fill the gaps. Now, I want to read something. This is too big to put on the screen, but I want to. Happy67 wrote something on Discord. I'm going to read word for word. And the reason why I'm going to read it word for word, because you know what? I don't know Happy67's gender. I don't know what you call yourself. So I'm just going to leave it. I'm just going to say Happy67. This fan wrote this. I don't care about ownership wealth or what other teams spend. What I appreciate is that Cleveland lets the front office do its job, building through development instead of constantly throwing money at free agents who are often paid for past performance and don't always pan out. That approach produced real contention year after year, including World Series run in 2016, with a similar payroll to where it is now. I'll take consistent relevance and almost to no rebuilds over boom and bust spending every time. And that is the reason I read that in its entirety is I think that first of all shows what a terrific fan Happy67 is. But also, I agree with that. I agree that they shouldn't be throwing money willy-nilly around, whether it's for Willie or for nilly. I think that they should use their money to fill in the holes, fill in some gaps, make sure you got a major league answer at every position, but not to go out and go on wild spending sprees. You can go on responsible spending sprees. I think with a couple of additional bats in this lineup, and with Clase, let's write Clase off for the rest of ever, because that's probably the case. I think that's more or less where you're going to have to look for if you're a Cleveland fan. But that being said, while I disagreed with your question you wrote to me, I wanted to read it in its entirety and be able to respond in its entirety. And also to point out, I like how you think. I just think they need a little bit here or there to push them over the top. And I don't mean an arm wrestling film with Sylvester Stallone. And if they do that, do you know what? Things will look really, really good in Cleveland. And I have a few ideas. Oh, by the way, Jeff Cohen 9925 says maybe the Guardians can get a loan from the Dodgers. Well, isn't that what revenue sharing is? Getting money from the big spenders? I mean, that's the case. By the way, Lawrence Coggins 2 times. This is what must be really hard for you. It says you were there for Game 1 and 7 of the World Series in 2016. It was a special series. Yeah, Game 1. If I'm not mistaken, that was the one where was that the one where their catcher hit a pair of home runs, if I'm not mistaken. And then, of course, Game 7 is one of the all-time greats. I was rooting for Cleveland that World Series. I was such a Francona guy. I said just 30% more. Yeah. There you go. And when you take a look at what they need a right-handed power hitter. They need bullpen. They need to have another reliever because they're going to lose Clase, and they need probably another middle infielder, and somewhere along the way. I mean, it's there's too much going on there that they don't need to go on a wild spending spree. I tell you a player who won't cost them a lot, and I think is a low risk, high reward potential player is Ryan Mountcastle. Ryan Mountcastle, who came out, exploded on the scene in 2021 with 33 home runs with Baltimore. He's still pretty young. He was no good last year. And, he has had his issues and his injuries issues and everything like that. But basically, he has one more year left on his deal. Yeah, he could be a free agent next year. And there's no room for him in Baltimore. He's a right-handed power hitter. And if he wants to make money on the free agent market, he's going to have a comeback year. And it would probably cost them next to nothing to get someone like him on their team, especially since they acquired, um, you know, Pete Alonso, and they've got a bunch of other prospects coming up through their system. I would go, go for that. Beastier 86 had a good idea. Said trade for Romy Gonzalez. The Red Sox do have a glut of outfielders, but the one thing that Cleveland has, they don't have the deep pockets of, say, New York or Los Angeles, but they have a deep farm system. So while the Red Sox probably would rather keep Romy Gonzalez, if they could get a good quality prospect for him in return and maybe keep Jared Duran, or maybe they would throw in Yoshida, I don't know, because they need hitters. That would be a good pick for them. They have the type of players that could come across as, who could be, they have the players in the farm system that they could pull off a trade. Nico Horner has been floating around because of the confusing Cubs infield situation right now. And if they want to keep Matt Shaw, well, Nico Horner is in the last year of his contract. So once again, it's not going to cost them tons of prospects to get him. Then maybe, just maybe, this is what you can pull off. So I would, if I were if I were Cleveland, I would be looking at players who are on the verge of free agency and are basically, won't cost tons of prospects and can fill a gap immediately. You're not going to get someone long term, so you're not going for someone like I'm realistic enough to know that the Cleveland Guardians aren't going to start acting like the Mets or the Dodgers. Well, they're not going to act like the Mets because they're going to make the playoffs. But I understand they're not going to suddenly bring about the big spending in Cleveland, but you can be clever and fill holes. And that's all I'm saying. Just fill the holes. Don't empty your farm system, because some of those players are going to be out the door the next year. But let me ask you something. And I'm going to ask you this, Happy 6-7. They've built up a nice team. Cleveland has built a team that I would pick to win the division in this year. Oh, did I mess up the thumbnail? Oh, I think I. Yep, you're right, music fan. I did mess up the thumbnail. That's my bad. I'll fix the thumbnail. Don't worry. Sometimes I slap the thumbnails together pretty quickly. If they keep Kwan and you have José Ramírez sticking around, they do need another big bat. I like their pitching staff. I really do, especially if you can get another good year out of Gavin Williams. They need to get another reliever. But the fact of the matter is this. Fact of the matter is this. Cleveland has a chance to win the American League pennant, to be the AL Central champ for the rest of the decade, but to win the American League pennant. They really do. With a couple of moves, I don't think it'd be huge. I think they make 2 or 3 moves between now and the end of the season and pick apart teams that are about to, if they fall out of contention, they should be buzzards sitting on their shoulder. So you're not asking the ownership to be wild free spenders. Just adjust the team. And that is something that's very good that Happy 6-7 said, that their front office is really smart and ownership lets them do their job. But the fact of the matter is this: they can win it all if they just improve enough. No rebuild necessary. Just fill the holes and wait for the first non-contending team to drop out and then pick that carcass. And one title, just one title in Cleveland would give you quite frankly, a lifetime of goodwill. Thanks for tuning in to Locked On MLB. Tomorrow's show, I'm doing a crossover with Locked On Rays, where we're talking about the stadium situation in Tampa, which sounds like it's going to be something good, but the Tampa Bay Buccaneers don't really like what's happening. You know what? Make sure to subscribe and follow Locked On MLB to get all the latest episodes, and follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or whatever it's called these days. I'm on that a lot more often these days. But mostly join the Everydayer Club at lockedonmlb.supercast.com, where you can join the Discord, where you can get, I will interact with you left and right there. And also you can follow us at the 24/7 Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. Let's go Tribe. Yeah, wait, hold on. Someone just wrote something there and I just clicked away. Oh, Beastier86 says, thank you. Love Jose. Go Tribe. Let's do the trivia question. How many games does Jose Ramírez have to play in 2026 for Cleveland to become the all-time leader in franchise history of games played? That's your trivia question. Put the answer right down below. Talking live with a little bit of a technical glitch about the Cleveland Guardians bringing back one of their beloved players for life. This has been Locked On MLB. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.